Okay, as I said, we're going to talk about planning our next year. We have talked a little bit about how you plan your year, and everything kind of ranges from I take it from my heart as it comes to I have a plan in place I'm developing and working. We all do this differently. And the thing I want to offer you about this is this is an opportunity to consider how you might move through planning your year and teaching for the year. It is not a dictate that this is the right way, because sometimes what's really true for us is we just have to follow our hearts and see where our hearts take us. So let's look at this and then we'll talk about it again. Great teachers emanate out of knowledge, passion, and compassion. This is probably my favorite teaching quote. And for today, I really want to invite all of us to think about the fact that we're spiritual educators, that what we do is educate people who are coming in. We educate them about the tools that they can use for life. I want to, Cindy, just welcome you. We're just kicking off, beginning to talk about planning our next year. So I'm glad you're here. Welcome. This quote, great teachers emanate out of knowledge, passion, and compassion, is something I want to talk a little bit about. I want you to think a little bit about. So let's talk about knowledge. Obviously, you as ministers and probably even as board president, Bill, because you've been around long enough to commit yourself to this, you have certain things that you have learned about unity, that you have been taught, certain things that are important to you that you feel compelled to teach each year. At some point during the year, you're likely to tell the story of the Fillmores so that everybody in your congregation knows. At some point during the year, you're likely to touch on 12 powers. At some point during the year, you're likely to step into or refer to or bring people back to the 5 principles. You're going to talk about how you pray. All of those things, you're going to talk about the indwelling God and what happens when we externalize God. These are all foundational points to unity that you will work in every year, that will always most likely be part of what you do. We know that. So today I want to invite you to set those things aside because we know they're going to be there. They're going to be there repeatedly. Today I want to ask you, when it comes to your knowledge, what do you feel compelled to teach? That answer is going to be different for each one of you. What do you feel compelled to teach? As a spiritual educator, what do you feel is called from you? What do you bring that other people don't bring? What is it that makes you unique as a teacher? We all have many things in common in regard to unity, but each of us has different experience. Robert, I know you have vast business experience, and while I wouldn't suggest you use that as your topic, there's a whole lot about how people move through the business world. There's, ethical considerations. There's, whether we're going to put profit or people more important. There are lots of pieces that you uniquely have experience with that have to do with how people make decisions in life. And many of the people that you're talking to will have that daily engagement in the business world. Jean-Marie, I know that you have vast knowledge when it comes to the power of deep meditation. You're unique there. Each of us bring unique talents. What of who you are you compelled to share? And if you think about your life and what you've learned and who you've learned from, and the oral tradition of passing on wisdom, what have you learned that fits with what you're doing at Unity? So if we assume that our life happens on purpose, that our life is not by accident, but happens on purpose, then we can assume that people who show up in our places of service are showing up for us to share what we have. There's a symbiosis there, isn't there? They're showing up. We have something to offer. It's an interesting synchronicity in the universe. Do you think that's accidental, or do you think that that is the energy of the universe working? For me, I always assume if you show up at my front door, you didn't get here by accident. You are here for a reason. Even if I've seen you 50 times, because you could change your mind any given day. So if you showed up today, you are here for some reason. If I showed up today, I am here for some reason as well. So what I'm asking you to do is to think deeply into who you are and what you bring in your foundational knowledge, because it's possible that you have something to offer your community that nobody else can offer. And for certain, you have your unique perspective. Mm-hmm. What does your community already know? You may look at your community and say, my community is so well seated in 5 principles that I really don't need to say very much about it because they understand. But it's good to identify, what have you solidified for your community and what's still mushy when it comes to the core foundational principles that you want to make sure your community understands so that they understand what unity is. It's really important to assess your community's knowledge while you're planning what it is that you're going to do for the next year. Where are they? Because you are taking them somewhere. And when we do this without planning, it's like having a group of people follow us and go, oh, we're going to take this street. Oh, I know I said we were going this way, but I think we're going to go this way. Let's take this other turn here. And along the way, you're going to see beautiful homes and yards and say hello to people. And it's going to be a great journey. But did you get them where you wanted to get them? Did you have an overall plan for where you would be at the end of the year? Something that allows you to really notice whether you have strongly seated the core principles and given them something that is uniquely yours to offer, that is the gift of the divine coming through uniquely you. What if you ask yourself, would you most love to learn about? Because here's the thing, when we teach really well, we teach what we're expanding our own knowledge of. We get excited if we're enthused about teaching something because we're reading the books we want to read, we're talking to the people we want to talk to, we're bringing in the teachers we'd really like to know more about. When we're enthusiastic about what it is that we're learning and we think about that, we teach differently. So a lot of times we're taking our cue from what's happening in society and what's happening in our individual congregation. But there's also a piece of asking yourself, wow, if I could give my year over to learning some subject, what would I want to learn? What would be fun for me? I did a year on Masters in Mystics that was so much fun for me because I got to spend a month on Thich Nhat Hanh, a month on the Fillmores, a month on Rumi, a month on George Carver Washington, really talking about what these amazing leaders in the world taught us and how that fits and dovetails into unity teachings. And I loved it. I had so much fun. And it's the year my community experienced the most growth because we just had a blast. We had so much fun learning together because I was excited about what I was learning. What would excite you? What are you excited about learning? And of course, we have to figure out, how does this subject tie back in? Another really fun thing for me is to teach about science and spirituality and kind of explore the quantum field. What is out there? How is science dovetailing with spirituality right now? I love that topic. I could talk about that topic every Sunday for a year, easy, because there's so much new stuff and so much potential. So what is it that makes you passionate? You're not in your new year yet. It's only November. You have time to think about this. And again, this doesn't stop you from saying, hey, I've got this plan, and I woke up this morning and Spirit said, talk about this thing. This isn't even about your music director or everybody else who plans with you. We could make a case for how much better job a music director can do if they can plan ahead. We could do that, but that's not the point today. Mm-hmm. The point today is, are you loving what you're teaching because you're learning something, you're expanding your growth, you're tying back and solidifying what you're learning with the Unity foundational principles, and it feels fun, and you're taking your people somewhere. You are on a journey and you're taking them somewhere. This is about you being passionate. And when you are passionate, it's contagious. We've all sat in a room with somebody who's talking, who's passionate. And whether you agree with what they're passionate about or not, you are riveted to what they are saying. Even if in your head you're going, that's crazy, I can't believe you even are saying that. You still are paying attention, aren't you? Because they're passionate, they're enthused, their body language says there's something going on, and the energy they're putting into the room wakes you up. If you love what they're saying, even more so, then you are passionately engaged with them. And isn't that what we want for the people that come to hear us speak? We want them to feel the love that we have for this path. The fact that this path is so core to who we are, that we chose ministry, that we could not possibly live our lives without sharing this, because we really believe it changes lives. So when you teach what you love to learn every week, it's exciting for you and for them. And here's a consideration. I love to play in this. I've mentioned this to you guys before. I love to play with the idea because we think, I am the minister. I am here in service to you. You who are my people. I'm here to serve you. And what if in the world of non-duality, the opposite is also true? That these people are here in service to you, allowing you to bring out of the inside of your heart this true, deep, powerful message that is yours to deliver. Not only for them, but because your work over the next year is changing you. Because you are called forward to teach something. Something is calling you. You have an interest in something. And this is an opportunity for you to be called into the perfect place and time to learn whatever that is. And to share as you go, to honestly share too. You know, it's important to say, we're going to learn this together. I know a little. I know why I put this here. I've checked out to make sure that this works with my Unity teachings. And this is stuff that's important for you to understand. I believe that it's life-changing for you and for me. So we're going to dig deep in this year and see where we end up. I believe we're going to end up here. I believe we're going to end up stronger spiritually. I believe we're going to end up more courageous. I believe we're going to end up stronger as a community. I believe we're going to be more accepting. What is it that you really want them to have at the end of the year? So that when someone says, what have you taught your community? You can say, I know that this community is more courageous. I know that this community is stronger spiritually. I know that this community truly understands compassion and service. What can you identify solidly that you have taught? So I want to invite you to, over the next few weeks, no matter whether you make a plan for next year or not, for yourself, to consider picking 3 things that you're passionate about learning, 3 things that interest you, and make sure that somewhere in your plan for this year, you get to touch on those things, because you're going to read books you want to read. You're going to talk to people you want to talk to. You're going to watch videos on a subject you're really interested in. So make sure that in your plan, you're taking care of what keeps your heart fed as a teacher. And what keeps our hearts fed as teachers is learning. It's the other side of the coin, isn't it? What happens if you forget that you have to be engaged in a passionate learning process is that you give and give and give, and you fail to fill your own cup. And then we get exhausted. So looking at next year can be very exciting for you. What do I want to learn? What do I want to extend my knowledge of? How can I fit this in? Then we have to ask ourselves this big question. Based on what I'm passionate about, and based on the fact that I am looking at unity, core principles, foundational teachings of unity, what does my community need the most right now? Because you guys know your people. What are they dealing with? Are they still dealing with some of the grief that so much of society is dealing with because of the whole COVID journey that we've been through? Are they dealing with change? Is change the big thing that you see in your see sitting across from you when you're in pastoral counseling? Change is a big one for people right now, also resulting from everything that we've been through with COVID. Are they dealing with heartbreak? Are they dealing with figuring out how to get beyond their own walls, out into service? What is it that's alive as you look at the people? And this is really about individualizing the people that you work with, thinking about the strongest voices in your community and the most consistent attendance in your community, and asking yourself, do I know what they need? If you don't know what they need right now, do a survey. It can be very, very easy to do. You can do it on your Facebook group. You can do it in a newsletter. You can just invite them, give me 3 subjects you'd love to learn about this year, or tell me 3 things that give them a choice of words. Would you like more self-confidence, more courage, more compassion? Whatever those words are that you feel, when you look at the picture of your community, give your community a chance to weigh in a little bit on this. You don't even have to tell them what it's for. Just ask them, which of these things do you feel are most affecting your life right now? Because we are there for them and they are there for us. So we want our topic, as we kind of niche down into what it is that we want to teach, we want our topic to meet the needs that are obvious to us in our community, as much as we want them to feed and nourish our soul and their soul. So knowledge, passion, compassion. These things bring forth a powerful, powerful year. So this is a journey, and I want to walk through the steps like we would think of a hero's journey. If you begin to think about where your destination is, you will naturally get there. It's very hard to leave your house in your car if you don't know where you're going. You have no idea where to drive. You may not have ever been there, but if you have some idea where you're going, you can figure out what the tools are to get to where you want to be. Whether you pick up your GPS or you go to the gas station and ask for directions or what you do, If you have an idea where you want to get to, you can go. If you don't have an idea where you're going, you're probably not going to get there. You're sitting still, right? So I want you to consider that this next year is a journey, and that your people, literally like Moses going into the desert, your people are following you. Where are you taking them? And how are you taking them? It's a call to adventure when you're excited about learning. It's a call to something. I'm going into this cool thing. For me, like I said, science and spirituality. We're going into this subject. I want to see how much proof there is of what we believe. By the end of the year, we're going to understand that a lot of these concepts we believe are not just woo-woo, that there's actual scientific evidence, and that the Fillmores were way ahead of their time. That's exciting to me. By the end of the year, my community is going to know this, or we're going to find out that science has not caught up with the Fillmores. I don't know, because I have to learn. I'm here to learn. We're here to learn. And this is important because in the position of leader, we want to know. We want to tell them what we know. And that's a very different thing than taking them on a journey into the unknown. If you were taking a group of Boy Scouts into the mountain, up the mountain, you would make sure that you had sleeping bags and food and tents and a little bear repellent, right? You would take what you need to take. Obviously, you have the foundation to take people on a journey. The invitation is to make it a journey to a place you want them to go, that you're excited to go to as well. And so if you're learning along the way, then you have to think about who your mentors and your teachers will be. Who is actually going to take you on this journey? So if I'm thinking science and spirituality, I'm thinking Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, Rupert Sheldrake, who knows? These are people who I know I can begin. Deepak Chopra, people who are working in medicine, in health, in science. I'm looking at who I can learn from and how I can involve their teachings, which can happen in lots of different ways. Whether it's someone, maybe I'm going to call one of the local universities and ask for a physics teacher to come in and talk to us about what's new in the field of epigenetics. What's new in, can you come in and tell us why you think meditation has a scientific foundation? I'm going to find my speakers according to the journey. So how most of us get our speakers is somebody sends us a note and says, hey, I'm going to be in the neighborhood. I'd love to speak for your community. And we go, cool, you'd be fun. This is a good topic. Come on in. It's a spontaneous thing. And there are times that's really valuable, but it's powerful when you're thinking about your teachers and your mentors and all of that lines up and you're proactive in it rather than reactive. Who can teach alongside of you? Who can you learn from? And who can you work with? It's important to create a threshold experience. And if you bring in, one of those threshold experiences might be bringing in a teacher. This is where we're starting, with somebody who knows enough to get us wowed about what's going on scientifically. And then we're going to continue our journey. But a threshold experience says the journey has started. That can be a ritual. That can be a retreat. It can be an in-house retreat at your place. You don't have to leave to have a retreat. It can be a Friday night, Saturday kind of workshop around a particular topic that is an introduction. But it's an opportunity to say the journey has now begun. We have crossed the threshold and we are on a journey together. And this is going to be a great year. We're going to learn from these teachers. We're going to study some books together. We've got a lot to do. Feels like, don't miss it. Don't miss next Sunday. Don't miss the Sunday after that. You don't want to miss the third Sunday. We have stuff happening here. This is fun. You want to be here. If you have a subject, then your book study can tie into that. Then you can choose books that support foundationally what it is that you're working on. Whether they're Unity books that really match well to what you're doing. Quest is a good match for this kind of, if we're using my metaphor of science and spirituality, Quest is a good match. What's the Unity book they can read, and what other book? Because to create allies on your journey, if you're going on a journey, don't go alone. Bring people with you, people you can talk to, people you can bounce things off of, people who've got your back if your backpack falls off, right? People who are with you. So when we do book studies and things like that, we engage our community together. We bring them into small groups. We invite them to have their own discussions, to let us know what their questions are, to let us know where their doubt is, which is a really important thing because you're probably going to have some doubt on your journey as well, too. Now, I read this book and I read this part and went, no way. that doesn't make any sense. So far, I haven't been able to find any proof that that's true. So I just want to say to you, if you had the same reaction, I'm right there with you. We're learning. Sometimes we have to be discerning with our teachers and with the information we take in. There's a huge process of learning for your community when they see you discerning and they get to be discerning. Because in truth, it's not our job to tell them what to believe. It's our job to give them information for consideration. And when we speak to our own discerning process, we teach them how to discern, how to be aware that just because it's written in a book doesn't make it true. And just because it's written in a book we recommended they read does not mean that it is the absolute unchanging truth. Charles Fillmore taught us that truth changes. There is nothing that is unchangeable because we discover things along the way. So speaking to our own discerning is important, and creating a sense of allyship. We're learning this together. We're learning this for a purpose. We're learning this because it makes our lives better and it makes the world better. That's why you're here. Why you show up every Sunday is because this helps you live differently, and this helps the world be a better place. You're not just here because you have nothing else to do on Sunday morning. You are here because we're going someplace together, and you're here because the world needs us to be our best people right now. As you go through this, you have to know what the monsters are along the way. So one of the big monsters in science right now is that we don't necessarily, our whole society is beginning to doubt science, isn't it? It's almost impossible to get society to agree on any truth. It's a big monster that we're facing. Like, we're getting this information. Why should I believe it's true? Or should I believe it's true? Or what should I believe is true? What is this truth thing anyway? Which is a great doorway back into Fillmorean teachings. We find truth by how we feel. We find truth by what is inside of us. Our knowledge comes from our deep connection to the oneness we are, to the holy that works through us. So it's a great opportunity as we have these monsters come up on the path to step deeply into how these principles work. Because we have monsters every day. We have monsters, confidence. People are feeling still very isolated and separated as society in the post-COVID world. Change is a huge monster. Change is something that we need tools for. So as we're moving through this, we're looking at what the monsters are that we're going to address with this information. What are the monsters that are going to come up on the journey that people are going to feel? And some of them will be revealed to us naturally in our process. And some of them are going to come as surprises. Someone's going to say something to you at the door on their way out. You're going to go, oh, there's a monster I hadn't even thought about. Got to talk about that one. How do we deal with these monsters? Because those are the monsters that people are dealing with every day in their lives. The blocks are the ordeal. The things that where you hit a block. The ordeal of this journey is for you. When you hit a point where you're like, I'm not sure where I'm going with this. I thought I knew where I was going. Where you have to stop and use your tools to get through this. You have to stop and connect your soul. You have to stop and ask. You have to notice what guidance is around you. You have to call on friends and people that you trust to converse about what you think you're doing. These blocks come up every year. They can be, your block might be, one of the biggest blocks I ever faced as a minister was losing my father and needing to serve a community at the same time. Massive block. I couldn't let anybody in. I was hurting so bad, I kept everybody right here. And you guys know, having your heart engaged with community, that's everything. Feeling that block that I couldn't let anybody in was a huge piece of work that I had to do in the middle of my journey. Your blocks, your ordeals will come up. You have a sick kid. You lose an animal who has been part of your family for years. Car breaks down. Who knows what it is? But the blocks that feel so big that they get in the way of you being a minister, those are part of your journey. It can be a criticism someone has of you. These things are the blocks that are part of your journey. And when you contextualize them as growth opportunities on this journey, it changes the experience that you're having as a minister. They are powerful things to move through, and they are connected to what you're learning. And this again comes back to an understanding that the universe has our back. That we are not alone out here. We are the universe in motion. And so whatever is happening, there is a positive opportunity for us. And it's part of how we move through the next year. And every one of us will have it. Every one of us will have a board member we're struggling with. Every one of us will have a minister. Another, if you're a board member, a minister you're struggling with, or an employee that you're struggling with. All of us will have these blocks that are part of our journey that invite us to come back to our passion project and ask ourselves, what have I learned that I can apply here? It's not by accident that this is what compelled me forward this year. What have I learned that I can apply in this situation to move through this block? What is the reward at the end of the journey? That really has to do with where you want to take them. It goes back to the question of compassion. What did you identify as the thing they need that matches the passion you have? And how will this take them to a tool or an understanding or both that they can use to move through life? And this is the powerful thinking about the great privilege of being a teacher. It is a tremendous privilege that people show up for us every Sunday morning and open their hearts and their minds to hear what we offer. How privileged are we that people will do that for us? How often do you open your heart and your mind to somebody else? To really let them pour in information that can change the way you live. This is the great privilege we have as spiritual educators. People come to us with a willingness to open up. And this is why I'm inviting you to really consider the long-term picture. And it doesn't really matter if you know where you're going, you know where you start. It doesn't really matter if the path is jagged along the way. What matters is that you identified how you're going to help your community live their life in a way that feels better for them. Because this world that we live in is challenging, and it's incredibly challenging for people right now. It's incredibly, incredibly difficult. People are showing up on Sunday mornings because day-to-day life is challenging. And they're showing up trusting that you're going to give them tools and techniques and inspiration that will help them to do this, to make their way through. And you know this. I'm not telling you something new. Some of these people are holding on by a thread, and you are the thread. So this thinking about the next year can be, if you allow it, incredibly big and meaningful and powerful and life-changing for the people that show up to open their hearts and their minds to you. There's a tremendous opportunity for gain. There's the gain that we have by taking on a passion learning, something that we're really excited about. There's a gain for our community because we strengthen them in ways that make them able to deal with their own lives better. And there's a gain in the world because healthy, strong people make good decisions. They are able to make good decisions, and our world is able to be different. And yes, all of that is riding on your shoulders as a spiritual educator. Not on your shoulders alone. There, you can look across the screen and see there are other people here. We all have our piece of this. But what we're doing is massively important. And I invite you at this time, as you look into next year, to really give consideration to the privilege you have, the gifts you offer, and the importance to really look at this in the big picture, to make it bigger than you think about your little church. So often we say, in my little church. Yeah, your little church is changing the world. Your little church is changing people's lives every single day. What you're doing is magnificent and important. And then somewhere in there is the returning to the familiar. When you make the hero's journey, you always come back home, don't you? In our year, we come home many times. We come home to our Christmas Eve service. We come home to our Easter service. We come home to these traditions that help remind us we're connected to something. Those are always worked into your journey. So, some of you talked about putting those on the calendar first. That's a good place to remember that you're coming back around to things that are familiar and reminding them that even though you're exploring what is uncharted, you are still connected to very charted, solid community and place. So this is a bigger picture. And I hope that what I impress on you is that it's nothing less than changing the world. If you are planning for a year, sow rice. If you are planning for a decade, plant trees. If you are planning for a lifetime, educate people. That's what you're doing. You are educating people. You are spiritual educators. Minister is a great word. We minister to people. We care for their hearts along the way, along the journey of their life. And you are educators, professionals, and so, so, so important. And this work is so, so, so important. So I'd love to jump out of this now, get you back on screen, and I'd love to hear your initial thoughts about this if you have any. Anyone want to share?
Yeah, definitely gives me something to think about. I think what the main thing I'm taking with me from today probably will stay with me for the next couple of weeks is that it's as much as my journey as it is everyone else's, and that it is, and it's almost like I need to give myself permission that's how I feel. Like I need to give myself permission to say, okay, it's okay for me to be interested in something and make that the focus. I have not seen it that way at all. I'm thankful that I have spiritual renewal every year, that the church allows me to do that. And that's when I do that internal journey. I give myself a whole month of working every day on that. But it is never, and the plan is always to come out and then share that. But to integrate it the way you did, you shared today, has never occurred for me. So I'm taking that with me for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Your thoughts?
I would have to echo that. It's funny because I am passionate and I study things, but I sometimes think, well, they're not ready for it, and that's ridiculous. So thank you for reminding me of that. And I'm also, there's a hesitancy to go all out. The word I like to use sometimes is I'd like to break out, be outrageous sometimes. And I'm hesitant to do that. So that's an encouragement, because I do get passionate about people need to get excited about what we're doing and the possibilities, and I do hold back. So thank you for that. I just had an idea. I'm going to set up a board on Sunday, and I'm going to ask, what would you like to talk about for the next 6 months of the year? What big subjects? And we're going to write that down and see what comes out of that. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, if you're passionate, they become passionate. Yep. It's contagious.
And passion is contagious. So thank you.
Other comments?
We did a survey, which you all helped me with earlier this year in January. And part of that survey was we just put a list of class topics and put it in. The question is, what kind of classes would you be interested in? Let people pick like their 5 top or whatever. And that has been so surprising and telling, informative, and useful also for Sundays. It's been a treasure trove of information, and then to also give people space to just sort of free write anything that they wanted to add to that. But in that process, I kind of discovered, so I appreciate again that you're giving me language for something that has been working in me about really and sort of bringing myself to the table in that way. And so finding what's alive in the community, what's alive in me, and letting that really be like, this is driving our path together and why we've been brought together at this time in this way. And so then it is my evolving as well as theirs, and then what we're doing together. So yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yay. Other comments?
We're in between ministers right now, and I'm on the board, and I'm also booking the speakers that we have come in. And I was on a phone call just before this, and one of our congregants said, we need to teach more about Jesus and his life and everything. And it just fit in with, you're saying, go through these. Last Sunday, we had 7 new members, and we're without a minister. So we're doing something right. And I think the variety of speakers we have is working for us right now. But I'm wondering about, you said the Fillmores, the 12 Pillars, the 5 Principles. There's so many people that are new to unity that if I could ask our speakers to, this month, can you bring in something about the Fillmores? And, those are great ideas. And this Saturday, we're having a hop cough, and we could go through this. What do you want to learn? And hopefully our speakers will go along with just a very broad a subject. Like, we'd like to talk about the Fillmores this month. Do you have any to bring to that? So I love
it. It's so helpful, Cindy, for you to have an idea still. if you are without a minister, your board is taking your community through an experience. What will strengthen your community? Because it's tough going through not having a minister. That's a big job. So if you know that you want to strengthen the Fillmorian beliefs and make sure that that's where you are, then you want unity teachers, you want unity speakers.
Exactly, yeah.
And you want to tell them that. We're working on foundational understandings. I mean, you could just do 12 powers and you would get through your whole year.
Yeah.
There's so much just there. So there's I'm really happy that that gives you kind of some direction. I think most unity speakers are really willing to tie in anything that you want. So I love that. I love that. Bill? Any comments?
I would just offer that, as I said in writing in the evaluation, that these sessions give me a much better understanding of the world the senior minister and the minister, our spiritual leader, lives in, which I was not aware of, number one. And number two, you've caused me to think, can I put my fingers on what the community really wants as a board, as being a member of the board? And I'm not sure I can. So I've got to give that a bunch more thought, and we'll speak with Jean-Marie later, but can I put my fingers on that concisely?
Well, and there's two parts of that, Bill. There's what the community wants and what is showing up as a need in your community. So one of the things, for example, that showed up in my community at one point was we had a lot of victim conversation. You know, this is being done to me and that's happening to me and the world's out to get me. And this is kind of contrary to unity teachings, you know, to the understanding that I am God expressing. And so I am attracting and living into a certain kind of way of being. So we did a lot of teaching. I brought Paul Hasselbeck in to talk about victim, victor, whatever the other one is, and verity. There's 4 of them. But I brought him in because I knew he could teach about that. And I knew people would love him, and they did. And then I brought him in early. This is the nice piece about using a threshold speaker at the beginning of your year when you know where you're taking them. You can refer back to those teachings all year long. Remember where we started with Paul. Paul taught us this. This is foundational and core to where we're going this year. So when you have that piece at the beginning, it kind of allows you that touchstone. And as much as we love being the authority, there is a great gift in having other authoritative voices. There is the power of more than one that our community gets to see. This is not just my crazy minister who believes this. This is a lot of people. A lot of people are living from this successfully. These are useful tools. As I said to you, I hope that the most important thing that you take from this is what so many of you mentioned, that what you are called to is spirit moving through you as you. And whatever is your heart passion, whatever is calling your attention, that's not just, oh, that's the Jackie thing. That's like, maybe there's a reason somebody in your community needs that. And the God self is responding with interest. So, you know, in this place of trusting your own hearts, trusting that you are God expressing and opening broadly to your community, it's, you know, what you might be thinking is outrageous is because it's interesting and new to you. But you get to choose how you present it, what the foundation is that you lay for what you're teaching. And unity gives us such a strong foundation to refer to. And your year should be fun. I want for you guys to all look at next year going, yeah, I can't wait to start next year. This is going to be so fun. I'm going to learn something. I get to do something cool. And then remember that Charles Fillmore reserved the right to change his mind, because you might think that this is going to be a whole year journey and find out that 3 months in, woo, we did it all. We're done with that. What is the next thing that's being called from me? You might find that that the calling is shifting. That has happened to me. It's happened to me overnight. I've had a call. You guys were talking about music directors. I've told my music director and had to come in the next morning and say, I don't know what happened, but I have to talk about this morning. And I'll tell you, one of the most amazing things, as you open your heart to that as well, to being guided by spirit in the moment, I can't think of a single time that happened that my music director didn't say, you know, I got up this morning and didn't feel like this was the right song, so I brought this other piece. And it's just, as you start to trust, all of the pieces start to move into place, you know, or they picked a song that didn't feel like it matched your topic and your topic changed. These things are real. They happen when we allow ourselves to really listen to what is calling inside of us. And it's been a real gift for me to turn the tables periodically. And remember, this is for me too. I was not just assigned a duty by spirit. I was brought to a learning environment to grow myself. And as I grow, I am able to be more in service to the community that I serve. So next 2 weeks from now, we'll get together. I would love to hear more at that time about what you're thinking. I'd also be really happy to kind of brainstorm through you if you look at, or with you, if you look at that model and go, I can't quite figure out, you know, this is where I think we are, and I can't quite figure out how I take this step. Happy to brainstorm there with you. And just, we're getting close to the end of the year. I'd love to hear where you are when we get together as your year ends. I really want to invite you to look back. This is a time of reflection. If we look at where we are in the year, it's a time when we're not so focused on growth, we're really looking back and saying, what did I accomplish this year? And I would really love to hear when we get together in a couple of weeks, what you feel are your great accomplishments. Let's use this small, sweet group to celebrate a little bit where we have been and what we have done. Okay? Any other comments? Any burning desires to say something? All right, then, my friends, thank you so much for your time. My love to all of you, and thank you for your really amazing work in the world. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.